Hi everyone, in this video we are going to learn chapter 1 of AP Computer Science A, and it's called Introductory Java Language Features. And so the first topic that we're going to cover are packages and classes. And a typical Java program has user-defined classes whose objects interact with those from Java class libraries. And a package is basically just a group of classes that are related to each other. And if you want to use a package inside a class, you have to use the form import package name dot star. And the star tells Java that you want to import all of the classes inside that package. And if you only want to import a single class, you can use, instead of the star, just replace that with the class name, and it will only import the one class. And if you want to import a subpackage from a class from a subpackage, then you can use import package name dot subpackage name dot class name. And package names are usually in lowercase by convention. And a Java program must have at least one class, and that's the one that contains the main method, where the program knows where to start. And a compiler converts source code into bytecode, and so all Java methods must be contained in a class, and all program statements must be placed inside a method. And another note to make is that typically the class that contains the main method does not contain many additional methods. The additional methods are usually in other classes, which are then called from the main method. And the words class, public, static, void, and main are reserved words, also called keywords. The keyword public signals that the class or method is usable outside of the class, whereas private data members or methods are not. The keyword static is used for methods that will not access any objects of a class, such as the methods in the first prod class in the example on the previous page over here. The program shown on the previous page is a Java application, and it's not to be confused with a Java applet, and which is a program that runs inside a web browser or applet viewer. So now we go on to types and identifiers. And an identifier is a name for a variable, parameter, constant, user-defined method, or user-defined class in Java. And it can be any sequence of letters, digits, and the underscore character, but it cannot begin with a digit. And identifiers are also case sensitive, which means that age with a lowercase a and age with an uppercase a are two different identifiers. And by convention, identifiers for variables and methods are in lowercase. And classes are usually start with an uppercase letter. Built-in types. So Java has types that are built in, and you can use them to declare a variable. So the type int is to declare an integer value, for example, 2, -26, or 3000. And Boolean is used to declare a variable that will return true or false. And double is used for a double precision floating point number, so basically a decimal. So 2.718, and so anything with a decimal in it would be a double. And you can use casting to convert the type of a variable. For example, if you have average equals total divided by n and you put double before total, the integer total will be casted to a double value. And alternatively, if you put the double before the n, then the integer n will be casted to a double value. And storage of numbers. So integers are stored as a string of bits, and 0 is used to represent positive, and 1 is used to represent negative. And the largest possible integer that can be stored in Java is 2 to the 31st minus 1. And the integer class has a final variable called max value, which holds the maximum value, which is 2 to the 31 minus 1. And it also has min value, which holds the minimum value an int can hold, which is negative 2 to the 31st power. And floating point numbers are stored in two parts, which are the mantissa and exponent. And so the JVM represents the number using scientific notation, which is sine times the mantissa times 2 to the exponent. And now we could move on to hexadecimal and octal numbers. So a hexadecimal number, or hex number, uses the base 16 and is represented with the symbols 0 through 9 and A through F. And where A represents 10 and F represents 15. And to denote a hex number in Java, the prefix 0x or 0 capital X is used. And the subscript hex will most likely be used on the AP exam to indicate that it's a hexadecimal number. And so in expanded form, this number, C2A, in hexadecimal, would be 3,114 in decimal, which is our system, what we use on a day-to-day basis. And so to convert from hexadecimal to decimal, you multiply the character that represents the number in hexadecimal by the base, and you raise it to the power of the position that it's in. So this is A is 0, 2 is at 1, and 16 is at, and C is at 2. So you could write it like this. And then you replace C and A with 12 and 10. And once you add all of this up, you get 3,114. And the advantages of hex numbers are their compactness and the ease of conversion between hex and binary. And so we also have octal numbers, which use base 8, and they're represented with the symbol 0 through 7. And the subscript oct will be most likely used to represent that the number is an octal number. And you use the same method to convert from octal to decimal that we used for hexadecimal numbers. So now we can move on to final variables. And a final variable is identified by the keyword final and is used to name a quantity whose value will not change. So for example, final double tax rate equals 0.08, and this value will not be changed. And constant identifiers are by convention capitalized, as you can see here. A final variable can be declared without initializing it immediately. For example, the variable tax rate was declared up here and initialized as 0.08 over here. And after it gets a value through this if-else statement, it cannot be changed again. And a common use for a constant is an array bound. So if you want to declare how many slots an array should have, you can use a final variable. And using constants makes it easier to revise code. So now we can move on to operators and arithmetic, and these are the arithmetic operators in Java. Plus represents addition, and an example is 3 plus x. The minus sign is subtraction, multiplication is the star, the slash is division, and the percent sign is mod, which returns the remainder of a number when it's divided by another number. And these can be applied to integer and double values. And so now we can move on to their precedence. And So arithmetic operators follow an order of operations just as they do in math, and their precedence is as follows. So parentheses are evaluated first from the inner ones out, and then the next highest precedence is given to the multiplication, division, and mod, and the lowest precedence is addition and subtraction. And if they have the same precedence, they are evaluated from left to right. And these are the relational operators that Java has. So the double equal sign represents equal to. The exclamation followed by an equal sign means not equal to. And this is the greater than sign, less than sign, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. And next we can move on to logical operators. So the exclamation mark in Java represents not. So and two and signs represent and two of these straight bars represent or. And logical operators are applied to Boolean expressions to form compound Boolean expressions that evaluate to true or false. And so Java has this thing called short circuit evaluation, where the sub-expressions in a compound Boolean expression are evaluated from left to right, and the whole thing stops as soon as the value of the entire expression is known, so it doesn't have to do extra work after that. The next kind of operators that we talk about are assignment operators. So the equal sign basically just assigns a value to a variable. The plus equal sign means you take the variable and add another number to it. So if you write x plus equals 4, that just means x equals x plus 4. And so the rest of these are the operators that we learned: subtraction, multiplication, division, mod, paired with the equal sign, which basically just extend it into this form. So the next thing we learn is increment and decrement operators, which are two plus signs and two minus signs. So if you write I plus plus or plus plus I is incremented by 1. So if I is 2, it becomes 3. And if you have k minus minus or minus minus k is decremented by 1. So if k is 2, it becomes 1. And so this is the precedence of operators, and this is what Java uses to evaluate which operators should be given precedence, and how Java evaluates an entire expression of operators. So there are many ways in Java to read the user input, but on the AP exam it'll basically just tell you that it reads user input, and you don't actually have to find a way to provide input. And so in order to output something in Java, you can use system.out.print or system.out.println. So basically, system.out.print just prints something to the console in one line, while system.out.println moves, it prints something and then moves to the next line. So the next thing that will be printed will be in the next line. Whereas with system.out.print, it'll stay in the same line. And now we move on to escape sequences. So the escape sequences are a backslash followed by a single character, and it is used to print special characters. And these are the three main escape sequences that you should know for the AP exam, which are \n, which moves the line to a new line, and quote, so it just prints out a double quote, and \\, which prints out a backslash. So the next thing we're on are control structures. And so control structures are mechanisms by which you make the statements of a program run in a non-sequential order